Hello, and welcome to the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute at Berkshire Community College. We are a community of over 1,500 people committed to learning and having fun. We offer 4 terms of peer-led courses each year, taught by volunteer instructors, and additionally offer scores of events, speakers, and programs to connect the members of our OLLI community with each other and the world. I'm Carol Allman-Morton, the Executive Director of OLLI at Berkshire Community College. We are a volunteer-driven organization. In addition to courses and events, we have a number of shared interest groups that members are welcome to join. You can learn more at berkshireolli.org/SIG. We have a number of events coming soon, especially in March, and you can see a complete listing at berkshireolli.org/events. The spring semester begins April 1st. Most classes will meet for 6 sessions, though some more and some fewer. Courses will be a mix of in-person and online. Our in-person courses will be all around Berkshire County. Thank you to our instructors for your expertise and care in leading these courses. And thank you to all the volunteers on our curriculum committees who made this semester possible. Our in-person open house is March 5th at 1 p.m. at Berkshire Community College. So if you're watching this video before that date, I encourage you to come, meet instructors and other members, and get a tour of campus. Registration opens March 5th at 9 a.m., but if you're watching this before then, the course information is now live online. Learn more about our spring courses at berkshireolli.org/spring 2024. On many of the course description pages, there are videos from instructors to give an introduction to their courses, and these are also compiled in this video. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy learning more about what's coming up this spring at OLLI at BCC. We'll see you soon.
Hello, my name is Adam Phillips, and I'll be teaching the Odes to Joy poetry course being offered at OLLI this spring. As I'm sure you gleaned from my brief course description, I believe that there is a deep and intimate and incredibly beautiful through line or continuum between all the kinds of love poetry that human beings have written and expressed down through the centuries, from the most steamy, erotic, and romantic love poetry between two people, all the way through to the most mystical and even ineffable poetry of spirituality one finds in Rumi, for example, or in the Song of Songs in the Bible. Finding these correspondences and knowing what to look for after reading these poems to see the many faces of love in all its continuity in our own lives is really the purpose of this class and what I hope you'll come away with through your whole life after you've finished it. To tell you a little bit more about myself, I've had a lifelong study of poetry, which I've appreciated ever since I was a child, especially love poetry, I've got to admit. I was a reporter on the Arts Beat for 35 years, and I specialized in poetry. Not only poets that you may have heard of, like Allen Ginsberg, Naomi Shihab Nye, Gary Snyder, Jane Hirschfield, but also 7 U.S. Poets Laureate, all of whom in some way or another express their feelings of love through their poetry and in their conversations. I've also been an alternative minister, where I use poetry, especially love poetry, in weddings, marriages, baby namings, funerals, etc., because poetry and love are omnipresent in our life if we just look for it. So I hope that this piques your interest a little bit in this 4-part series, and then I'll see you in the spring, and we'll all have a lot of fun together, learn a lot, experience quite a bit, and just basically have a lot of fun and learn about love poetry and all its many, many manifestations. Thanks so much for watching this video, and hope to see you there.
Hello, I'm Stacy Wallach. Some of you may know me from my prior history courses at OLLI. This spring and summer, I'll be teaching a 2-part course on the Roaring Twenties. I hope to see you all in mid-April when we begin. It's a general survey course, and OLLI is organizing individual courses on specific aspects of the 1920s, taught by experts in those areas. And so I hope you'll look at their curriculum online to choose additional courses beside my own. My own course is going to focus on, first of all, on a number of things that occurred between 1895 and 1920 that first came to full flower in the 20s. For example, the change in the US population, the Great Migration of Blacks out of the rural South into northern factory cities, the 4 constitutional amendments in President Wilson's second term, 16, 17, 18, and 19, on income tax, direct election of US senators, and most of all, prohibition and female suffrage. We'll look at a number of science, engineering, and technological changes that, again, were first invented in the prior 20 years, but then came to full flower during the 1920s. I'm going to just mention them quickly. Telephones, automobiles, airplanes, radios, movies, medical advances, home appliances, and fake science. The collective impact of those during the 1920s was gargantuan. We're then going to look at the rise of the new Ku Klux Klan, which was invented in 1915 on the top of Stone Mountain outside of Atlanta, and was very different from the old Ku Klux Klan. And accompanying that was a huge suppression of civil liberties coming out of World War I. We're going to have Tom Garrity, our constitutional scholar, as a guest lecturer for one of our classes, talking about that kind of thing, the Red Scare, the Palmer raids, the vigilantism, the impact of all of that giving rise in the 20s to the invention of the American Civil Liberties Union. And then I'm going to talk about prohibition, the good, the bad, and the ridiculous. And I'll focus also on the 3 Republican presidents, Harding, Coolidge, and Hoover. My timeline ends in November of 32 with the election of Franklin Roosevelt. And then we're going to talk about the changes in US morals and manners, booze, cigarettes, and sex, family planning. And then we're going to take a very close look at the Harlem Renaissance as part of the whole movement of modernism in American painting, American music, which of course is Black music. And we'll look at some of the leading writers of the 1920s. And we'll conclude with you telling me what it all means. And you'll see over the course of these classes that there are some rather remarkable similarities between the 1920s and the 2020s, but also some huge differences. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun because, as always, I focus on the extensive use of PowerPoint images. My lectures are as visual as they are verbal. And there's a lot to see about the 1920s. And I hope to see you then, starting in April. So thank you for listening to me, and join us for the 1920s.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kathy Duguay, and I'll be offering a course called Mystery Fiction this spring for Ollie. Mystery fiction has been one of the most popular forms of genre fiction since its development in the 19th century. It's speculated today that 1 in 3 novels published is in the category of mystery fiction. So what makes this genre so popular? Why do so many people enjoy reading them? Well, I think solving puzzles and the intrigue of being presented a number of clues and then trying to, like the detective, solve the case is one of the big motivating factors. People enjoy the challenge. I think it's human nature. But it's also a reflection of some of the values and context of the time in which it was created. So we'll see that throughout the subgenres that we look at, that there are particular things going on in society at that time that sort of bring about the particular type of mystery story that we have. So in this class, we'll look at a variety of the subgenres of the form. The classic British detective is one of the most obvious, the Sherlock Holmes, who is the genius detective who solves the crime from the evidence presented to him. The American hard-boiled story, which was largely a reaction against the classic British detective story. And the American hard-boiled detective is largely a reflection of American romanticism and American individuality. And we'll see that in some of the examples that we'll look at. The emergence of female detectives, for a long time, most detectives in mystery fiction were men. So with the emergence of the female detective, we see that women are just as capable of solving mysteries as men. They may do it a little bit differently, but are equally successful. The police procedural is another form where we look at the official aspects of law enforcement, like the police, the court system, the medical examiner. Other subgenres, like the psychological mystery, are also ones that we might look at in this course, where the focus is not on who done it, but why it was done. We often know who the murderer was, but the story explores the psychological aspects of the killer to find out what made him or her do it. So the format of this course will be mainly discussion. I will present some of the theoretical aspects of this genre that have been written about and studied mainly in the 20th century. And we'll look at how some of the readings that we'll do really fall into some of these categories or represent some of these aspects of the theory of the form. So we'll spend most of the time, though, discussing these texts. We'll read the stories and then talk about them. The course will be offered in hybrid format, which means that I'll be meeting with students in person at BCC, but you'll also have an option to Zoom in virtually so that you can participate in the discussion and take part in the course. For those of you who are still away in your wintering spots, or if you don't live in the area, you'll still be able to take the class. So I thank you for your interest in looking at this video, and I hope to see you in April.
Hello. You probably were introduced to Romeo and Juliet when you were in high school, when you were the same age they are. Let me tell you, they haven't changed. Whether your first impression was formed by your freshman English teacher or West Side Story or the Zeffirelli film, Romeo and Juliet are still teenagers. But well, that's another story. So let's revisit them because we're not teenagers. Let's bring our AARP eligible perspectives to this timeless play to see how our perceptions have changed. How do we process the violence which permeates the play? How do we feel about the alleged grown-ups in the room now that we are the grown-ups in the room? And how do we see Juliet, Romeo, and his friends now that instead of relating directly to them, we might so easily imagine being their parents or grandparents? And now that we will not be required to memorize any speeches, we can probably bring greater appreciation to the lovely language Shakespeare gives his characters, especially to Juliet, and to the compressed action of the plot, which takes us economically and directly to the woeful end the prologue describes. How does Shakespeare keep us so engaged? How is it that every time I see or read this play, I think maybe this time they won't have to die? We'll be reading one act per week, and we'll look at language, plot, and implications for staging. We'll discuss the connections to other Shakespeare plays that feature young lovers, and to other plays that are tragedies. Actors Shakespeare Project in Boston will be producing the play in May and June if anyone who might be interested in following up the course wants to attend a live performance. I hope you'll join us in Fair Verona, also known as the Stockbridge Library.
Hello, I'm Linda Neville, and I'd like to invite you to join me on my journey in Back to the Future of Science Fiction. It's an OLLI course that will be running this spring, starting on April 2nd, and then going to May 7th. It'll be on Tuesdays at 11:30 in the morning, and for six sessions. And if any of you enjoy science fiction or just want to find out what is this genre, science fiction. I welcome you to my class. I'm looking for a lot of class discussions on what we love, what science fiction really is. We're going to be talking about robotics and technology, flights into space. But what I really want to think about is, when did science fiction stories first start, and go back to the very first few. And there's a big debate on a lot of different things on what makes science fiction. I like the science fiction with technology in it. Other parts of science fiction have been presented that include fantasy. Some are calling it speculative fiction, but there's a lot of new things that are coming out in this time period. Every day there's a new science fiction writer. So I want to just really talk about the ones we all love. We have H.G. Wells, Jules Verne, the great A.C. Clarke, Space Odyssey, that sort of thing, and how science fiction has been presented over time. Most of it came out, as I'm sure most of you who love it as I do, in comic books and movies, movie adaptations and things like that. But it's a genre I've always enjoyed because of the imagination and the warnings that have been given by many of the authors as to different things that have been thought of and what the consequences of those different possibilities are for humans. So please come, be glad to see you. Please contact me at nevilleland19@yahoo.com if you have any questions or suggestions on what you'd like the course to look like. I want it to be an interactive course, and I want us to have some fun with this course. So please join me. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jeannie Marlin Woods.
Hello, I'm Dan Woods.
We're going to begin by introducing ourselves and telling you about our upcoming class, Bringing a Dramatic Character to Life from Page to Stage.
Some of you OLLI members may recognize Jeannie. She's taught for OLLI for the last couple of years. She's also a co-host with Naomi Spatz on the Berkshire Theater Previews. Last year, she was joined by Kate Kidd in teaching a two-part course called American Dreams, in which the class read and discussed plays that dramatized the American immigrant experience. Jeannie is a professor emerita of theater at Western Illinois University and a professional actor and director.
And Dan is a professional actor with many years' experience, most recently in the Berkshire Theater Group's production of A Christmas Carol. Dan is also a fine artist working in dry media. Dan and I have worked together in theater throughout the course of our 50 years together. Since OLLI offers many classes in dramatic literature and also sponsors a special interest group for play reading, we thought it would be fun to offer this class.
Whether you are an experienced amateur or professional actor, or just someone who loves to read and explore the mysteries of a play script,
this class is for you. Our plan is to bring together a small class of readers to read scenes from different plays, focusing on making the scenes come to life. We hope this will give you both skills and confidence to enrich your reading of dramatic literature.
During the 6 weeks of the course, we will teach you a few basic analytical techniques for developing a character, and we will give you instruction in vocal and interpretive techniques to make your readings engaging for an audience.
We hope to have a mix of novice actors and experienced actors, and we will pair up the actors and assign 2 or 3 persons to work on a scene in class. It is not required, but you may want to meet your partner to work your scene outside of class. This can even be done using Zoom if that works best for you.
During this overview today, Jeannie and I are utilizing our own skills of reading, and we hope, making the text lively and engaging.
The course will be designed to be fun. Participants can bring in suggestions for scenes to read or express preferences for comedy or drama. We will assign scenes based on what you want to explore and the experience you bring to the table.
We are absolutely thrilled that Ollie has arranged for this class to meet in person at the Foundry in West Stockbridge. Standing up on a real stage and sharing your work, the class will give you an acting experience. Since you will be reading, no memorization is required, and you will be free to explore without fear.
Our final class will be a presentation of the readings, along with a discussion of the experience. If the students agree to invite an audience, we will open up that reading to other Ollie members.
This class will be meeting on Tuesdays from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Foundry, located at 2 Harris Street in West Stockbridge.
We begin on Tuesday, April 2nd, and our last class will be Tuesday, May 7th.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our video.
We hope to see you in class.
Hello, my name is Jean Belvillada. I'm a professor of Spanish language and Latin American literature at Williams College. I'm slated to offer an OLLI course this April under the title Selected Stories of Jorge Luis Borges. For those of you who may not be familiar with his writing, Borges is one of the most influential authors of the mid-20th century. His innovative fictions break with realist format and instead place the unreal, the fantastical, or the simply extraordinary at front and center of narrative. He devised imaginary worlds that mirror our own. He invented new fictional forms that combine essay and narrative. His bookish erudition, moreover, can shape a plot and be subtly funny besides, and so on. Some of Borges' works are now standard references. Discussions of the phenomenon of absolute memory invariably bring up the story Funes de Memorias. Reports of vast repositories of information prompt casual comparisons to his fable, The Library of Babel. Narratives of time coming to a halt invite parallels with The Secret Miracle. And total remakes of past works usually elicit allusions to his mock essay, Pierre Menard, author of the Quixote. Borges' influence was felt on these shores by postmodern authors such as Thomas Pynchon, John Barth, and Donald Barthelmy. And the character of the blind librarian, Jorge de Burgos, in Humberto Eco's international bestseller, The Name of the Rose, was clearly inspired by Borges. Helping readers appreciate Borges has been one of my several missions in my vocation as scholar and writer. And I gave that mission palpable shape in my book, Borges and His Fiction, A Guide to His Mind and Art, published first in 1981, and with a second edition revised and expanded in the year 2000. So I look forward to our sharing with you my insights and yours into some of Borges' writings. We'll be discussing about 3 or 4 stories per class meeting. Please bring your copies of his anthology, Labyrinths, to the first class, as we'll be reading out loud his story, The Sect of the Phoenix. Okay, see you all there. Bye-bye.
Hi, I'm Debbie Reinish, and I'm going to be teaching the New American Cinema on Wednesday mornings at 9:30, beginning April 3rd. The New American Cinema, otherwise known as the New Hollywood, is that period from 1967 to 1980, when essentially the inmates ran the asylum. The Hollywood studio system had really lost touch with the American audience. They had lost control of their theaters through antitrust legislation. Television had taken a huge bite out of their audience. And there was a steady stream of really innovative, exciting foreign films that came to the United States every week that had really captured the college audience. So in desperation, these large corporations turned to the filmmakers, to the producers and directors, and a very exciting new generation of actors to decide essentially what movies were going to get made. And these movies were commercial successes. They weren't just award winners. So something like Easy Rider made $60 million in 1969. That's about $500 million today. And Midnight Cowboy won Best Picture. So these are masterworks, which I think you'll enjoy seeing again. I'm going to ask you to watch 2 movies each week before class. They're available on Netflix or Amazon to stream. But kind of exciting, Ollie is going to run double features for us every Tuesday afternoon before class. So if you care to join us, you'll get to see the movies on a screen on Tuesday afternoon at 1, And also they'll be fresh the next morning when we talk about them at 9:30. The class is going to be 2 hours because we do have a lot of clips to look at. And another thing that's kind of exciting is we're going to run the class at the triplex in Great Barrington. So when we do look at these clips, we're going to have really great projection and sound. So I hope you'll join me. These are movies that were made during turbulent times. I'll be really excited to see if you feel they hold up, if it's fun to see them again after 50 years. And also, it'll be interesting to see if these movies, made 50 years ago, have something to tell our turbulent times now. So I hope you'll join me on Wednesday mornings at 9:30 at the Triplex in Great Barrington, starting April 3rd for 6 weeks. Hope to see you there.
Hi, I'm Don Bark, and I'll be teaching a course called Poems That Might Be Great for Ollie this spring. I like the title because I like the word might. It has two senses to it in my mind. One is poems that could be great, and each of us will be deciding for herself as we go along how great a poem is or isn't. We'll also be thinking about what makes one poem great or greater than another. But in a more interesting way, might suggests aspiration. Might be great. It could be great, if only. And that's what a poet is feeling when she starts writing, when she's inspired to write. A sense of rising up as inspiration, or aspire from the Greek, to breathe. It's an expansive feeling and a sense of refulgence, rising up, that energy. Anyway, one of the reasons why I've chosen these poems is because they've come down to us from previous eras that found them remarkable and passed them on to the next generation. And they passed the poem on to another generation. They were collected in anthologies and taught in schools. And so most of these poems will be for us a voice coming out of our past from another age. And this establishes a feeling of continuity with the past, with what human beings felt and thought a long time ago, and still feel and still think. One of the poems we might read is The Second Coming by William Butler Yeats. And it was written in the 1930s when fascism was gaining force in Europe. And Yeats himself was not completely unsympathetic to fascism, but he also smelled a rat. And the poem begins memorably, turning and turning in the widening gyre. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart, the center cannot hold. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. Now, those lines are ringing lines at the very least, but they also have in them a sense of doom and corruption that we might find echoing down to our time today. And so the reverberation comes beginning with Yeats writing in the 30s and bounces forward to us sort of the way a bat squeaks in a cave to gauge where it is. And the reverberation helps tell us where we are in any time. The poems we'll read include poems like Yeats's, like Kubla Khan by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, which begins again ringingly in Xanadu did Kubla Khan the stately pleasure dome decree, where Alph the sacred river ran in rivulets numberless to man down to a sunless sea. That music gives me at least a frisson, a little shiver up the back. And when we discuss the poem, we hope not to interfere with with those bodily functions that give us a thrill, but maybe to understand where they begin, where down below in the ground
the shaking begins, sort of like looking for the epicenter of an earthquake. And this is what the poem, in a way, what a poem ever means, finding out where beneath the ground it begins to come up through our feet and our belly, ultimately into our heads. But we don't want to spend too much time in the top floor, in the head. I like a look of suffering because I know it's true. That's the opening couplet of a poem of Emily Dickinson's you may well recognize. There's greatness in that also, in its perversity. It's shocking to begin that way. I like a look of suffering, but at the same time, those lines find a home in us. Wait, yes, we do like a look of suffering. And yes, because we know it's true. Maybe one reason we can't look away from accidents or people who've fallen ill is because it finds a home in us that we need to look into. And she's a bright light to use in spelunking into that cave of truth. Anyway, we'll read 5 or 6 poems a week for 6 weeks and talk about them. And my aim is not to put too heavy an emphasis on coming up with a definition of greatness, because I don't think it's helpful, particularly, to define greatness so much as it is to get a sense of what we mean when we burst out with the words, "That was great," or "profound." That's a profound poem, a deep poem. Fundus. It comes from our base, from the very bottom of us, like the bottom of a statue. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Bess Dillman. I live in Egremont, and I've been leading hikes in the Berkshires since 2007. I've led hikes for Ollie for about 7 years, and last spring I led my first wildflower walks. And people seem to really enjoy them, and I know I did, so I'm leading them again this year. In April and May here, we have an amazing display of spring wildflowers in the woods, and it changes every week. These spring ephemerals appear as soon as the snow melts, and sometimes even in the snow. They flower, they produce seeds, and die back in weeks or even days. So if you miss them, you won't be able to see them for the next year, until next year. We'll meet at various properties each week and explore the trails to see what we can find. In early April, we generally start with skunk cabbage and hepaticas. And as the week goes on, more and more flowers come into bloom. As you may know, Bartholomew's Cobble in Sheffield is famous for its variety of spring flowers, and by the end of April, almost everywhere you look in the woods, it's a flower show. You will need to wear comfortable walking shoes for the woodland trails that have rocks and roots that we need to navigate. We walk a total of up to 2 miles. We stop often to investigate the flowers. The trails may be wet and or muddy, so you need to wear waterproof shoes or boots. I suggest using poles for stability. I use them and find them very helpful. And of course, dress for the weather and in layers. So as it warms up, you can take a layer off, or if it cools down, you can put a layer back on and stay comfortable. I'll let you know each week where we will meet and give you directions. Last year, we used an app where everyone could access that information, and then I posted photos of every flower that we saw. And I expect to use that app this year. So I hope you will join me for this awesome annual woodland display. Now, just a quick preview. In June, I'll be starting a day hiking series for Ollie on the world famous, and it is world famous, Appalachian Trail. The hikes will be approximately 5 miles long and have some significant elevation changes both up and down. and include lunch that we bring with us to eat on the trail. So keep that in mind if you'd like to participate in hikes that are a little more difficult in both length and terrain. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Christopher Otis. I am a professor emeritus of pathology at Bay State, University of Massachusetts, Chan Medical School at Bay State. And I'm glad to be able to introduce the topic of cancer in the 21st century, which has been organized by Dr. Shireen Nash, who's co-chair of the scientific committee for OLLI, and me, who, as means of introduction, I am a pathologist who has worked for about 45 years in the field, primarily in diagnostic surgical pathology and in cytopathology, which involves the diagnosis of disease states by means of examining tissues either obtained by biopsy or resection specimens. Now, one of the things I've noticed throughout my career is that it's a misconception amongst many people that cancer is one disease. And in fact, cancer is a myriad of all types of different conditions with different outcomes and therapies and characteristics. So what we decided to do was to explore the concept of cancer as a whole myriad of conditions and also update everybody on what has happened in the 21st century regarding our understanding of this concept of cancer. So by way of that introduction, we have arranged for 6 speakers, and they will be exploring the basic underlying processes of cancer, some of the media publications and presentations that may be misleading, and then explore cancers in different organ systems. So Dr. Joseph Jerry is a professor at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst since 1993, and his work has primarily been involved with understanding risk and resistance of breast cancer and the underlying genetic mechanisms responsible for that. Dr. Grace McCurry-Judson is the professor of medicine at University of Massachusetts School of Medicine, Bay State, and she is involved in treating patients with breast cancer, and she'll be exploring all the different types of factors that go into doing just that. Dr. Catherine Reeves is a professor of epidemiology and associate dean of graduate and professional studies at the School of Public Health and Health Sciences at University of Massachusetts Amherst, and she'll be addressing some of the publications or presentations that are available to the community at large. Some of this may be misleading, and so that's going to be an interesting presentation. Dr. Tashana Myers is an associate professor of obstetrics and gynecology at the University of Massachusetts Chan Medical School at Bay State. She is the chief of the Division of Gynecologic Oncology, amongst many other responsibilities. And she will be talking about gynecologic oncology in general. And then finally, we have Dr. Rahul Jawali, who is a pathologist and associate professor of pathology, University of Massachusetts Chan Medical School at Bay State, and he'll be talking about GI gastrointestinal oncology in the 21st century. Then finally, Dr. John McCann is an assistant professor of medicine and heads up the section on lung cancer at University of Massachusetts Chan Medical School at Bay State. So with these speakers lined up, we hope to be able to explore this concept of cancer and bring to light updates that have been occurring in the last 25 years or so, as our understanding of cancer has progressed at a very rapid rate. Some of the treatments have totally changed the outcome. Patients with diagnoses of cancer in different organ systems, and others have made very little progress. So we'll see how things are at the current state, and I hope everybody enjoys these speakers, all of whom are very talented individuals. I've had the privilege of working with them over the years. So with that being said, I hope that people take the time to register for the courses and enjoy them, and I hope that they get something out of them. And welcome, and thank you for the opportunity to put this course together. Thank you.
Welcome to Rebranding You, the Ali Spring Course 2024. Defining You in Rebranding After 50 will take place on Thursday evenings at 5:30, April 4th, April 11th, April 18th, and again in May on the 2nd and the 9th. There will be 5 sessions, and the location will be at BCC and will be limited to 30 people. The course will discover, again, who are you at this stage in your life? We will look at finding your purpose and repurposing you so that you can really use the skills and the wisdom that you've developed over your lifetime to share with others, which means we're going to rethink, revise, and rebrand. Maybe you're a chef in the kitchen. Maybe you can share your skills because there are some people who can't even use a microwave completely. We're going to find your fire and we're going to start over because we rise by lifting others. We're going to look at your skill set and use universal design to look at goals and objectives so that you could set up your own little course and teach it on a podcast or YouTube, which we will learn to do in this class. Here are topics where people really do need your wisdom: how to clean a house, how to fish, how to read stock, how to manage, how to write a check, how to learn empathy, how to avoid debt, maybe understanding a tax form, penmanship, how to react, how to engage with others. Maybe they need study review for civics to get their passport. Maybe they need to learn something about religion or spirituality. Maybe you could learn and teach younger people how to compose a letter and how to interview or how to handle the word no, tolerance, workplace behavior. Maybe learn about American culture, learn about fancy restaurants and how to eat at them, how to use your skills to control your anger, how to appeal something, how to listen, how to be a parent, maintaining a job, behaving, advocating, even basic geography. Over your years, you have learned all those things, but you can't imagine how many people have not had the role models, who have not had the chance because of interrupted education. We're going to learn to put your skills to use for you to make a simple mini podcast and YouTube that we can put out there for anyone in the world to learn from you so that you have left your footprint for others. The only limit on this course is you. We're going to look at the information you know, the reality of who really needs to hear from you, the actuality, the truth, in however case you want to form it, which means we're going to refresh you, we're going to rebrand you. And how are we going to do that? Let me walk you through the first 5 days. In meeting one, to rebrand yourself through self assessment and goal setting. We will be using engaging and interactive course to help participants understand rebranding at 50 plus. Through self assessment, participants will identify their skills, their passions, and their values. They'll set clear and achievable goals for personal and professional life. They'll bounce ideas for personal branding statements and future applications of life skills being passed on to others. And they will leave with a draft plan on time management and possible routine development for beefing up skill areas and how to show that to others. This includes even with coping with age related challenges and bias to embrace actual change. In our second meeting, we're going to reinvent your path and how others see you. This class makes you look trendy, looking at how your skill sets align with AI options like podcasts or using transferable skills and leveraging existing strengths. We're going to look at strategies in a digital age for those who need to become more proficient in computer tech. And we will end with a profile makeover that can be uploaded to places like LinkedIn for personal branding and online presence. This is really important because you have so much to offer people who don't have guidance. And this is the hope that this is what this class will bring out in you. Meeting 3, we're going to look at what if old you met new you? This class brainstorms lessons learned, applications to rebranding, and how you leverage the new you from your wisdom, expertise, and experience. We will use this as a jumping board for you to redefine you. We will optimize you for a new outlook, for new self worth in yourself, and potentially for others who may not have had equity to accessing what you can bring to the table by looking at what you could bring to your podcast. This will include identifying skill gaps, brainstorming and think pair shares for growth areas, and exploring opportunities for learning purposes. In the last meeting, or the second to last meeting, meeting 4, we are going to embrace change with navigating transitions. We're going to look at fear as an acronym. We're going to use neuro-linguistic principles in language to change perception. And we're going to look at how we embrace change and navigate life's transitions. We're going to remap with hindsight as if we were to do a do-over, and how we can bring those experiences in a new direction to rebrand this next segment of our lives. The goal is to look at strategies for transitioning into new roles, building resilience and well-being, and reflecting on personal growth through celebrating our successes, shared experiences, and continued supportive learning of who we are even in the later stages of life. Our key vocabulary word will be empowerment. And not just empowerment for you, but how you can take what you have learned or whatever skills you have to empower another. In the last meeting, we'll present the new you. We will visualize the rebranding of you. We will look at any overcoming hurdles or adversity with openness to newer concepts so that we can incorporate change for the better. We will bury self sabotage. We will reinstate self worth by practicing acceptance, learning to say no, cutting out negativity, setting and finalizing goals, and sharing what we believe to be accurate and in our best interests. And perhaps we can share that with others. And we will respond to letters that we wrote ourselves 5 weeks before to see how we had changed. And in our insights, we will look at what it took over the 5 weeks to rebrand you with this new attitude towards life and to see what is still in you that can still be rebranded and helping others. We will learn how to open your first free podcast where you can share your ideas with the world or perhaps teach something new. I really hope that you will sign up for this class. I'd love to have you. And I hope that you're open minded and you're really looking for a time where you'll have social interaction and you'll look forward to your Thursday evenings. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hank Gold. I'm a retired radiologist, not a rocket scientist, not a brain surgeon, but I'll be teaching a class on going to the moon, and I want to share with you some of the things that I've picked up over the years. So if you people want to sign up, I'd be happy to have you join me in this class. So it's going to be a 4-part class. The first part is going to be about the rockets. You know, we need rockets to get to the moon. So where do they come from? So what are they about? And how were they made? Okay, once we have the rockets, then we have to get a man into space. We have the Mercury program, and that'll be the second class that I'll be teaching. Once we know how to get people up to space, we have to communicate with them. We have to be sure that they can function up there, and then we have to bring them back. That's always a chore. Anyhow, we succeeded in doing that, and the Mercury program was a success. After the Mercury program, the next week we'll talk about the Gemini program, and that was after man has learned how to go to space. Now he has to do some work up there, always work. So how does man function up in space? That's what we'll be talking about there. Um, how to walk in space, how to use tools in space, and how to rendezvous in space. That's a biggie. We'll talk about that, and I'll share some of the trials and tribulations that were experienced in that program. So after the Gemini program, then all of this needs to be put together, and we have to go to the moon. And that was the Apollo program, and that'll be the fourth and last class that I'll be teaching. The Apollo program now had 3 people going up and going to the moon, landing on the moon, getting off the moon, getting back into that capsule, coming back to Earth. It's all pretty complicated stuff, and it had to be done right. Otherwise, we'd wind up with stranded astronauts, and that was not something that we wanted to have happen. Anyhow, I'll be sharing all that stuff with you people if you do sign up, and I do hope you do. I'll be looking forward to having you sign up for the class and teach it.
Good day. I'm David Langston, a professor emeritus of English at MCLA. I will be offering a course in modernist art for this spring for the OLLI program. As you know, modern art is an enormous subject, and this course will be looking at just a few basic commitments shared by artists in diverse fields like painting, architecture, literature, and film. And each of these artistic fields will be the topic for 1 week out of the course. Our discussion will begin by sketching a few fundamental ideas that shaped the multiple visions that came out of modernism. And then each week we'll explore how each of these ideas are translated into the practice of specific artists. One basic theme we will pursue is how these practitioners of modernism reject the 19th century's obsession with the march of historical progress, in sharp contrast to the Abuelian optimism that saw the modern world as the embodiment of eternal ideas. The modernists took a dramatically different idea of modern society. It had become, in the words of the poet T.S. Eliot, a wasteland that desperately needed a fresh beginning to revitalize it. While this perspective we now label modernist had been advocated well before 1900, the inhuman carnage of the First World War had accelerated the rejection of 19th century idealism and optimism and fueled a frenzied beginning, a modern beginning that would restore lost or suppressed values. This quest for a new beginning included a search for a new language, a new artistic language, a way of communicating both the terrors of disaster and the brief and fragile signs of a new beginning. Rather than base their art on traditions that prize the recording of lived human experience or drew on the traditions drawn from the past, modernism drew inspiration from the basic impulse that they considered to be universal to all human beings. Their distrust of tradition also justified their experimentation in almost every arena of artistic production: 12-tone music and jazz, new experiments in literary form, and stark architectural drawings. And in this respect, the explosion of artistic energy matched the spirit of the 20s. The social and psychological despair brought on by the disasters of World War I was the context in which the artists of modernism proposed fresh beginnings, a new beginning they saw as more universal, more comprehensive, and despite the frequent tone of desperation and gloom in their work, a more hopeful future for the human prospect. The course will meet at Berkshire Community College on Friday, starting on April 5th. And if you have questions concerning the course, you can contact me by sending an email message to this address, dlpomo@gmail.com. That's DLPOMO, dlpomo@gmail.com. Thank you and good day.